Okay. Sorry. It's this thing again. This debate about the U.S. supremacy, U.S. Dollar. Okay. Let me explain again what actually happened, and with the Eurodollar system. Okay. So in the 1960s, with the Eisenhower speech, that the military industrial complex took over the system, right? And the decision was that they would defend the global supply chains, and primarily they would defend the supply of commodities and energy. How do we know that? We know because of what they call the petrodollar, the deal with the Saudis. That was in the 70s. And that pertains, jibes, with the creation of the Eurodollar system. So what is the Eurodollar system? It is that the US supplies US treasuries, and the rest of the world supplies goods and services. That is in the appearance. That is what we see. What we don't see is that the balance sheet is not exactly like it appears, right? Because on the US side, which were the US treasuries, actually they were not the US treasuries. Just how many soldiers who die in interventions to defend global supply chains? How many bombs have you thrown to defend supply chains? Right? But you cannot put this on a balance sheet. You cannot say, well, you exported to America, let's say, 1 million tons of potatoes, right? And I did 15 or 20 interventions in order to secure these 1 million tons of potatoes. You cannot do this on a balance sheet. So the way it was established is that US treasuries would be served as American export, not the interventions, not the bombs, not the quantity of the killed soldiers during the interventions. And the system worked quite well on the economic side, right? Up until Obama presidency, up until the great financial crisis. Why? Because if your focus is the defense of the supply chains, it means that you are going to allow financial collapses because the system is a credit debt system. And when the credit and debt become unpayable, the system resets. There is a crisis, but the supply chains continue producing. So let's say if you have a company, right, and you have debt and you can no longer continue with the debt, you sell the company, let's say at 10 cents on a dollar. Another owner buys the company at 10 cents on a dollar. You go bankrupt, and the guy continues the operations of the company with 10 cents on a dollar. Actually, I have been a witness of that with a 13.5% or cents on a dollar of a big chain. The person bought it for 13.5 cents on a dollar, and the big chain is now very successful. The operations didn't stop. That is how it's supposed to work. You'd have a multiple or incessant financial crisis on purpose because it's a debt-based system. It's not a Soviet system. It's a debt-based system, right? As such, crises were very normal to reset the system, to wipe out the debt. Up until great financial crisis in 2009, the Rubin Obama holder Congress at the time, that they decided that, well, this kind of balance sheet we don't need any longer because we have the dollar, the Eurodollar system, right? The world has no option but to use dollars, which is entirely imaginary fantasy. And the entire thing was based on a theology called Homos economicus. And I remember reading, not reading, watching the interviews from Joe Henrich, which is the chair of the anthropology department at Harvard. And he said he a lot of his cooperators were economists, and they all believed in Homos economicus. And 100% of his experiments or whatever he saw was that humans never, ever comply to this Homo economicus theory. And the only species actually which complied was the chimpanzees, the monkeys, but not humans. So basically, you just live to consume, nothing else. So they decided that let the factories move anywhere, doesn't matter, China, India, Vietnam, whatever. They have no option but to get treasuries in order to ship goods and services. Mhm. And we'll do that by destroying the Pentagon, by destroying the military. And they set out to doing that. And what happened ever since? Inflation went out of control. Because no one is stupid to ship goods and services if you offer nothing, just digits on computers. And I remember arguing about this on FT Alphaville and on Naked Capitalism. FT Alphaville actually ended up banning me. And Naked Capitalism, nice people, they just start making fun of it, but they didn't ban me. Folks, you gotta give something in order to get something. No one is that stupid. All trade is a barter. The US was bartering interventions for real goods and services. When you offer nothing, you're going to get gradually nothing. Hence, inflation out of control since Obama presidency. And Trump is Obama 2.0. He continued the same thing. And even now, Trump and Bannon are overdoing what Obama started, which is the destruction of the Pentagon, which is the only thing that the US exports. Pentagon's interventions. Nothing else. Right? You get the point, folks? Okay. You have a fantastic day.